name's Jim Robertson, head brewer at Wells & Youngs. Welcome to the second edition of my blog here in the fermenting room at our brewery in Bedford, which is that magical place where we put the soul into the Bombardier. So it's in here that the yeast works away, making alcohol, carbon dioxide and the magical flavours. Each of these vessels holds about 250 hectolitres, that's 25,000 litres, enough to keep most appetites satisfied. Strongest beer is an interesting question. What does one mean by strongest? Well, let's assume the obvious. The strongest beer I've ever brewed in terms of its alcohol content was Russian Imperial Stout that I brewed when I worked for Courage, and that had an alcohol content of about 13% by volume. This is getting pretty close to the highest level of alcohol you can get in a normally fermented beer. Those that are much higher will often be fortified with the addition of alcohol or by some form of distillation. So 13% is the answer to that. But also strength can mean other things, so strength and depth of flavour. And in terms of the most flavoursome beer I've ever brewed, certainly that's drinkable in quantity, then Eagle Bitter has to be my favourite. I'm often asked why I decided to become a brewer, and probably the immodest answer is to say because I knew I would be good at it, but a slightly truer answer is that I'm too fat to fly fast jets, and that's my other passion. I most certainly do love my job, and one or two people say they have the best job in the world, and I think I probably have one of the best jobs in the world. And whilst I might like to think I could sample every brew that I produce and every beer that I make, I do actually have a fantastic team of master brewers that work with me, and we do share the load. So sampling each batch is important, but there's more than just me to do it. Question about can you follow the grape with the grain or the grain with the grape? Often a question of debate, and I think my first answer is why bother with the grape? I mean, why should you need to drink anything other than beer? But assuming that you do feel the need, it's probably actually more about moderation. So as long as you're not overdoing it, personally I don't think it matters which order you do it in. But if you drink excessive amounts of wine and followed by excessive amounts of beer, or vice versa, then probably you'll feel a bit poorly in the morning. I was asked how old I was when I started brewing. I can actually clearly remember the official answer to that, and I was 19 years old and just starting at brewing school, and I think almost everybody at brewing school has a go at home brewing. I would however also say that a lot earlier than that, my father and I used to make a sort of apple ale from surplus fruit that we got in the garden. So I guess fermentation has been in the blood for a lot longer. But yeah, 19 years old when I was at university. Brewing and my education actually came together at a fairly early stage. So whilst I was at school, I realised that I was quite interested in becoming a brewer. And I actually went to brewing school in Edinburgh. So I did a formal degree, a Bachelor of Science in Brewing, before I then went on to full-time employment. So being a brewer and being educated went hand in hand. Yes, Young's beers are available internationally, as are the Wells beers. Probably the biggest market overseas for Young's is America for draft chocolate stout, where in actual fact more is sold than in the UK. So very, very important export market for us. Our number one brand, Bombardier, is sold in over 25 different countries, and whilst the UK is still its biggest single market, there are a whole series of important export markets, but again predominantly America, but Canada and various countries within Europe are increasingly important. Our beers travel all over the world. They win awards as far afield as Australia, and we have good friends selling them in New Zealand. So right around the globe you can get Wells and Young's beers. It always amazes me that more brewers don't make their beers available to vegetarians and vegans. I think sometimes actually they're just being lazy and not recognising the market, and there's a great opportunity to sell beers to vegans, and actually the majority of what we produce is suitable. The only beer that vegans probably shouldn't drink if they're strict vegans is cask conditioned beer. We probably have some of the biggest honey jars in the country. Each of our jars holds about 1 1/3 tons, which believe me is a lot of honey. And it's supplied by a company called Brewers, who are based in Manchester, but the honey itself comes from South America, and we use a blend of about 30% Mexican to 70% Argentinian. What we're actually looking for is a consistent flavour, and one of the beauties of British honey is it will change in flavour depending on what the bees feed on. So you get lavender honeys, blossom honeys, lovely for the consumer but not much good for the brewer. We buy our hops from all over the world, and they're pretty much in concert with the part of the world that our beers come from. So our American lagers, we buy hops from the Yakima Valley, which is up in the northwest of North America, around Oregon and Washington State. But perhaps a little bit more importantly, and getting to the point of your question, we absolutely do still buy hops from Kent. And there are some beautiful hop gardens still in Kent, and actually just starting to increase a little. Over the years the numbers have declined due to the competition for farmland, but you will see 1 or 2 new hop gardens appearing, and Kent hops are particularly valued by craft brewers all over the world.